Welcome to another deep dive. Today we're really getting into the weeds on the conflict in Ukraine. It's complex, always shifting. Our main source here is The Economist, specifically an issue from August 16th, 2025. So pretty current perspective they're offering. And what we want to do today is, well, try to cut through some of the noise, right? Focus on the key things the sources are saying about the military situation, what's happening with diplomacy or trying to happen, and maybe what a path to peace could even look like, according to them. It's a real puzzle, lots of pieces. So let's try to unpack it. Okay, so starting on the ground, militarily. The Economist piece describes Ukraine's situation as, well, depressing. That's the word they use. Talks about a really intensive front line, especially, it seems, north of Kharkov, and Russia's view. Completely different. They seem to believe Ukraine just cannot win.
Yeah, and more than that, that time is actually on Russia's side. They're even anticipating Ukraine might just collapse. It's a very confident stance from Moscow, at least as reported. And what really jumps out is this contrast in perception. You know, Russia's core belief, according to the sources, seems to be that they can just absorb the costs.
Endure it.
Absorb the costs. Even the human ones. Especially the human ones, it seems. There's a Russian officer, Shoigu, mentioned he estimates casualties at, get this, 40,000 to 50,000 per month.
Wow. That's staggering.
It is. And yet the implication is that Russia is prepared to accept that level of loss. It's quite chilling, really.
And does that willingness, that sort of grim calculation, show up in their actual strategy, what they're doing on the ground?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
The sources talk about Russia building these really extensive defenses, like 4 lines deep in Zaporizhia.
4 lines, so they're really digging in.
Exactly, digging in deep. And also shifting forces around in the occupied areas. There's even talk, potentially, of a new push from Kursk towards Sumy.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it really paints this picture of Russia settling in for a very long, entrenched conflict. Not looking for a quick end, it seems.
Okay, so you have this picture of a grinding, maybe stalemated military front. But then diplomatically, it sounds like things are actually quite busy, maybe surprisingly so.
That's where it gets really interesting, yeah. And kind of messy. Despite the fighting, there's this whole flurry of diplomatic activity happening, or at least attempts at activity.
Flurry is a good word? What kind of proposals are we seeing?
It's a real mix. You've got, like, proposals from anonymous individuals, even an anonymous company called Borg.
Borg.
Seriously.
Their idea, apparently, was for Ukraine to just give up its military entirely.
That sounds extreme.
Right. And then you have another unnamed individual proposing a 10-year peace deal. So the ideas are all over the map.
And what about more official channels? Governments, envoys?
Yeah, so American leaders are reportedly discussing land swaps. That's a term that keeps coming up.
Land swaps, okay.
And there are specific meetings mentioned. Like the U.S. envoy, Stephen Witkoff, he met Russia's foreign minister on August 10th.
Witkoff. And what's his angle, according to the sources? Well, this is pretty striking. He reportedly believes that any peace deal has to be, quote, less acceptable to Ukraine.
Less acceptable to Ukraine. That's a perspective.
It is. And there's another detail. He's apparently also working on prisoner exchanges, including, it says, 2 American civilians in exchange for words.
Words? What does that even mean?
The source doesn't really explain. Words. Could be anything, right? A statement, maybe intelligence. It's very vague. Suggests some kind of non-traditional bargaining chip, maybe?
Fascinating. And Russia? Are they putting forward their own ideas?
They are. They apparently made a counterproposal involving land swaps, too. Basically swapping land Ukraine currently controls for the Donbas region.
And Ukraine's response?
Rejected it. Flat out, according to the sources.
Okay.
And then you have the UN envoy, Dmitry Merz. He seems to generally agree on the sanctions aspect, but he's worried. Worried that this U.S. talk about land swaps will be really, really difficult for President Zelensky to swallow.
You can see why. So many moving parts, so many different players.
Exactly. And it's not just U.S.-Russia. There was this meeting on August 13th. Zelensky, the German chancellor, and someone just called Trud in the article.
Trud. Another mysterious figure.
Seems so. They were trying to create a united front, apparently, and agreed they needed a truce before any real negotiations could even start.
A truce first. Makes sense.
And China's in the mix, too, kind of. Putin apparently blamed Zelensky for Russia's actions in conversations related to China. So, yeah, complex doesn't quite cover it.
And amidst all this high-level maneuvering, the strategy talk, the diplomacy, the sources also touch on the human side, right? The actual soldier.
They do. And it's quite powerful. There's this one anecdote mentioned. 2 Russian soldiers under fire carrying parts of a trench, and one asked the other, how can we simply give that away? The ground they fought for.
Wow. That really brings it down to the individual level, doesn't it? The personal investment, the sacrifice.
Absolutely. And it connects to other points about morale. A Russian general, Popov, is quoted. He says, soldiers are tired.
Tired. Understandable.
Yeah. And also critical of the band-swaying leaders. That phrase, band-swaying, suggests a feeling that the leadership is out of touch, maybe putting on a show while they suffer.
Yeah. Disconnected.
Right. The article even says some Russian soldiers are actually reluctant to fight more, which, contrasts sharply with that official willingness to absorb casualties we talked about earlier.
It does. It adds another layer. So you have the state policy, but then the reality for the people tasked with carrying it out, potentially quite different. Does the article suggest this fatigue, this reluctance is like a major problem for Russia? Or just pockets of discontent?
It suggests it's a factor. Maybe not crippling right now, but definitely part of the strain. That kind of fatigue combined with those huge casualty numbers.
Yeah.
Well, it could certainly make it harder to sustain things long term. It adds another dimension to Russia's whole endurance calculation.
Okay, so pulling this all together, the military grind, the complex diplomacy, the human cost, what does The Economist itself suggest might be potential ways forward? Any insights there?
Yeah, it offers some interesting thoughts. One key idea seems to be leveraging future relations, specifically between America and Russia.
How so?
Well, things like lifting sanctions, tying that possibility to progress on peace. The article mentions this could connect to Putin apparently wanting some kind of, quote, rehabilitation on the world stage.
Ah, okay, so sanctions relief as a carrot.
Potentially. And not just sanctions, it also mentions possible cooperation in the Arctic on energy projects, another potential incentive.
So the idea is offering Russia something more for peace, maybe, beyond just territory.
That seems to be the implication, yeah. Linking a broader normalization, maybe economic benefits, to ending the conflict.
And the article mentions Mr. Trump's patience. How does that fit in?
It's mentioned as a factor in these complex considerations, perhaps suggesting a willingness from some quarters to engage in these longer-term, maybe unconventional negotiation strategies that might require, well, patience.
Right. Okay, so this has been, well, quite the deep dive. We've seen just how layered this whole situation in Ukraine is. From the front lines, the depressing state mentioned there, to all these intricate, sometimes contradictory diplomatic efforts happening behind the scenes.
A real tangled web.
It really is. And always. That immense human cost underneath it all. It leaves you wondering, doesn't it? When you look at all these different ideas about what a resolution could be and the ongoing sacrifice, what does victory or even just peace actually mean anymore for each side? And, maybe more importantly, how might those definitions change if these external incentives, these other benefits, really start getting put on the table in the coming months? Something to think about.